if we get these made again, I want the
On both
imprint
sides?
on the other. Well, on both sides anyway, because I'm a right-handed drinker, and that means I'm reading it, but nobody else is.
That's true. So now you have to drink left-handed, which is all cattywampus.
You know me and cattywampus. I don't do cattywampus. Hey, welcome to the Scuttlebutt. I'm Rich Mellon.
I'm Sandy, and we are once again in our cabin in the woods.
1 second. Start again?
No, we had such a good banter going
We
there.
did, but the viewer was open, and that would kill a battery in half the time. And
I see.
I think you're feeling long-winded today, aren't you?
Am I? I'm not sure how to take that.
Just roll with it then?
Just roll with it.
Just roll with it. Okay.
Yeah. So we don't have to start over. We can just talk about our cups some more.
Oh, okay.
And life is definitely better at the cabin.
I guess that's one of the things though we've given up on the on our gear, huh? On selling our shirts and our hoodies and
cups. We haven't ordered cups for quite some time, but the biggest thing is the cost of shipping.
bed.
Even when we used to have the hats, a hat would cost something like $20 to ship.
Yeah, a $12 hat would cost $20.
Yeah.
Because of the syndicated monopoly that Canada Post has in Canada, nobody can compete with them. And actually, it's in law that they have to do 3 times the price of what Canada Post can do it for. And I understand people having jobs, and I understand the value of jobs and all that kind of stuff, but it is severely impacted commerce. Wow. And that's their whole reason for having a job.
Small business in particular has been heavily impacted on the negative side, but I think anyone who's in business would know that. Even just, if you have a business for yourself and you need to order parts or supplies or whatever it is for your business, you've noticed the cost of shipping has gone up, and not just a little bit because of the carbon tax that we pay in Canada. But that's political talk, so we probably shouldn't go there. Lots of the people who watch our show aren't necessarily aligned with us politically, but regardless. And that's one thing that happened this week politically, whether we want to talk about politics or not. But the
You're determined, aren't you?
I am. But the U.S. election happened in between the last time we talked to you and today. Yeah. So that was an interesting time in history, and whatever side you stand on, it was an interesting time in history. So I think the one thing that has to be said was, I don't know how much the votes that President-elect Trump got were because he was the favorite. I think it was because the other side has totally forgotten about everyday people. Yeah. Tip O'Ryan, Tip somebody Tip
was
O'Neill.
O'Neill. There you go. Mm-hmm. He was Speaker of the House, and he said that national elections are won on Main Street, and what that means, that what is important to folks walking down Main Street of any town is what's important to the country. And the left and their progressive incentives, I don't know what you call them anymore.
Agenda.
Agenda. It's crazy. I think that they lost contact with the people, and so maybe this might be good for the whole political system that they have to rebuild. Right now, of course.
We sure hope it is in Canada, because we have somebody at the helm who his own party doesn't like him, and he's fallen so far away from what he promised to be for people that it's laughable. But anyway, that's politics. We should probably shut it off right there.
You're afraid. You like to take me by the hand and lead me down this path and just see how far I go every time, don't you?
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
But we had a good weekend out here this weekend. We of course, today is November 11th.
It's Remembrance Day.
And Remembrance Day in Canada. And it is a day off for those of us in Canada, but I'm not sure.
They don't have Remembrance Day in the States?
It's not called Remembrance Day. I think it's called Veterans Day in the U.S. and Memorial Day is in May there, which I think is a holiday. But
Okay.
I couldn't swear to it, so I don't know.
Anyway, for those who have served and do serve, thank you for your service.
Yes.
We couldn't do this stuff without the freedom that you all have bought for us. Mm-hmm. You know, very, very, very serious, and we really enjoy a nice day of trapping.
Yeah. We do.
on Remembrance Day, it's always November 11th has always been an important day all through my life, and we've never forgot what it's about, and so thank you. But we have this is our second trip out now since long hair season started. Long hair for us starts on the 1st of November.
Well, long hair can pretty much be defined as the weasel family, right?
Well, 1st of December we get more long hair, which will be the lynx, but that's usually defined differently. Yeah, squirrels have opened earlier, but any of the fisher, the marten, the weasel, the mink, wolverine, they all open on the 1st of November. We don't have a lot of wolverine here. They come through occasionally, usually on big snow winters.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether they get pushed down out of the north because of the snow or pushed somewhere because of the snow. But winters where we don't have a lot of snow, we don't ever have a wolverine wander through the place.
We have some friends that used to trap up north of High Level, which anyone who knows the province of Alberta is. High Level is 5 hours north of where we live. And where they trap is probably 5 hours north of where we are right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, they used to catch a number of wolverine on their trap line, so it seemed that there was an abundance of them. And anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but it's been really quite mild here.
Well, before we move on that, though, I want to talk about fur itself.
Oh, okay.
And it's funny. Our fur in the north here is very much in demand. Mm-hmm. Even our coyotes are still going for $50 or $60, but these are class 1, 2, the proper color in that western coyote. So they're the coyotes that were always worth money, and then when everybody in the world wanted a coyote, then everything became worth money, even the eastern coyotes and the southern coyotes, which are different animals actually than what we have here in the west. The fur has made a really strong rebound. We had 2 auctions last year at the Fur Harvesters auction, and we had the largest attendance by fur buyers from all over the world, which is really good news. Mm-hmm. Everybody was always giving, during COVID and that, everybody was down on fur harvesters, saying they weren't representing the trapper and all that. But when you can't get people there to look at the fur, it's really hard to sell it. I mean, there's stuff you can do online. I can buy underwear online because I know what size and color I want, right? I know the brand that works, so I can buy underwear. But if I was buying a pair of pants or something, I have to go try that on. And it's the same thing with the high-end fur buyers. They're not going to buy that high quality based on a picture.
And pay top dollar.
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. So it was always our high-end stuff that didn't sell during COVID. And it was just because you couldn't get anybody to run the price up, and fur harvesters held the value, which I heard a lot of people complain about it, and I told them, don't be stupid. They are actually doing you a favor. That will be worth money when this comes back. So they have to send letters of invitation to fur buyers from many different countries that come to buy fur here. They need an invitation in order to apply for a visa to come. I wonder if is it a work visa they get? I don't know. Anyway, they have to send these letters, and they have, once again this year, a new record number of letters have been sent or requested. So that is really good news. Last year, those 2 sales, our prices went really high, or went up a long ways. Beaver especially was up there, and a lot of people complain, well, that's what they used to get for beaver in the 60s and that, but we were getting, $40, $50 US for a beaver hide. Most of it is all going to felting, the hatting industry. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of that Yellowstone thing. I don't know
if that's what it is or not, but that's what a lot of people say. That's the run on Wranglers, and it's the run on Carhartt jackets, and it's the run on felt hats.
I didn't know about the Wranglers and the Carhartt jackets, but I do know that somebody was telling me the hipsters and the African Americans in the States have some hat that is very popular with them that is also made, the best are made from beaver felting. So a lot of these people who are anti-trapping are actually wearing a hat made from trapping.
And they probably aren't aware of it because
no,
all they're looking for is quality, and isn't that sort of ironic, right?
Isn't that funny though? Is how many people are not aware of of what their ethics or moral stand they're taking, and they have no idea what they're.
Well, it's the same with their iPhone though. They holler about slavery and people living and working in unsafe and.
Oh yeah, and reparations should be paid for.
But they're standing in line at the Apple store to buy the latest and greatest. So anyway, I mean, humans are funny. People are funny.
The other really good thing that it really bodes well is that clearance rates were almost 100%. So you have.
Might want to say what clearance rate is.
Well, I'm going to.
Oh.
As I said, so you have 100,000 Martins show up. And, if for a clearance rate to be 100%, that'd be all 100,000 would have been sold. We're hitting, I think Martin and Fisher hit 100%. Otter was down. Otter was one that hasn't moved well, but I think it was in the 70% rate. Muskrats were down, but now I'm told this fall the demand for muskrats is picking back up again. We had really good clearance rates on our fur. Lynx was 100% or 98% or something like that, and we had 33 dozen lynx there in the sale. Top lot was $220 US. I never got one in top lot, but I did have $200 lynx.
And we should say too that here in Alberta, we have a quota. Well, we did have a quota on our lynx.
We may still have a quota.
We may still have a quota. We don't know. It's kind of up in the air. Left hand, right hand. No one knows what's going on. Anyway, our quota is 22 lynx in a year. But we are not obligated to sell our fur in any given year. So, just like people who sent their fur to the fur auction and it wasn't sold and it was held in the warehouse, we just hold it at home.
Yeah.
And store it properly ourselves, and then when we think that it's looking favorable, then we'll gather up everything and take it in. When quota was a thing or still is a thing, whatever, we have to go and register all quota animals at a registered fur depot, and they tag the hides and all the rest so that
there's paperwork.
There's all this paperwork, and the government knows, and
government red tape, right?
Yeah. So anyway, that's why we could sell 3 dozen of them at an auction, just in case we have a Alberta biologist who isn't familiar with trapping.
Oh, gee, well, what a shock that would be.
But still hands out the licenses and reviews all the fur reports, just doesn't know what he's looking at, or she.
Again, what a shock that would be. Ask me about it.
There's stories to be told that could fill more reels than we have. So anyway, it's an important thing for people to know, though, because there are rules and regulations in every jurisdiction across North America for wild fur trapping. And it's important that you know the rules in your area.
Absolutely.
But I think it's always important when we talk about what we sell or what we ship or what we catch or whatever, that we talk about the rules and regulations that apply or did apply at the time.
Well, lynx had to me, I felt that our northern lynx had bottomed out. They were going for $60, $50, $60. So I started holding them, and then I had a furrier approach me, and he wanted to buy some tanned fur, so I think I tanned 20 or 22 for him, and sold them to them. Those are the kind of markets that you curry. They're not there all the time, but if you plan ahead, you can take advantage of it. And I got good money for my lynx. Not just sending them and getting $45 or whatever.
We should say too, though, that is considered a processed hide.
Well, yeah,
and you don't need to have a fur buyer's license.
No, once it's tanned, it's tanned, you no longer need a fur buyer's license.
But it is our risk.
Is that for a biologist that maybe doesn't know what they're doing? Or?
It is a risk to us, though, because we can't, unless you have a fur buyer's license, and that's still the law today, as far as I'm aware. You cannot sell that fur to anyone other than a fur buyer with a fur buyer's license specifically.
Whether it's frozen or whether it's been skinned and boarded and dry, that is still considered raw fur.
Right.
And that requires a fur buyer's license. It's a terrible law. It's a terrible, terrible law. Because what we've done is we've taken away all of the little cottage industries.
Yeah.
I can't send a single beaver in and to get it tanned and to sell it to somebody, and then maybe they need half of another beaver, or the costs are astronomical. So you want to send a bunch at once to try and bring your costs down, but then that's all your risk. And lots of times, people are,
We've had it happen.
Oh.
Where we've had something tanned for taxidermy, which is even more expensive.
Yeah.
And then the guy on the other end went, no. Not interested any longer. If
I could wave my wand and have one thing change, I would change that. This fur buyer's license stuff in Alberta just is terrible.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and I don't know why they have such draconian laws for trappers and for the people who make the gloves, mitts, toques, and that kind of stuff from the fur.
And that extends to our Indigenous population, as well as we know many cottage industry owners. I think about people like Stacy Skirpin, who's in the Lac La Biche area.
Yeah.
And she has a wonderful following for her fur products, but she is just an outstanding crafts person.
She's making me a new hat.
I think our son might have claimed it, though. I'm a little worried about that. He sent us a picture and said, "Thanks, Dad," because Stacy happened to be up near our home at a Christmas craft sale, and she'd brought Richard's hat with her. So we sent Jake over to pick it up, and got a picture back saying, "Hey, thanks, Dad."
Yeah, you can find Stacy on Facebook. Fox and Wolf Designs.
Yeah,
is what she's called. Somebody's sticking his nose in the lunch bucket pretty good there.
Hey, well, you see, he can't get up in his chair today.
Oh.
So yesterday we left, and I said to Richard I'd forgotten something back here. I didn't remember that I'd forgotten the bread, though. But anyway, that's a story for a little later. Anyway, we came back to the cabin. He walked in the door, and there was Gunner curled up in my chair, and it was like, oh, geez, I've been caught. But he made no quick moves to get out of the chair. He just thought, carry on, get what you've forgotten. Leave me in peace.
Our animals are not usually allowed on any furniture or anything else, but I mean, out here, these are like probably the fifth or sixth repurposing of any of these couches and chairs and that from throughout our 45 years of history together. So
and some of it was from the previous owner.
Yeah. So he could maybe catch something from it rather than him leaving anything there.
Good boy.
So anyway, we're happy to be out trapping. As we post stuff up, whether it's podcasts or TV shows and that kind of stuff, people are complaining that this isn't worth doing and that isn't worth doing. I think one thing you have to remember, especially with the large predators, and coyotes are a major predator, is they still have to be managed. And we always talk, when prices are high, everybody is a conservationist, something like another
probably shouldn't be there.
Area of society, always a conservationist. But when prices are low, those animals still have to be managed. We ship 40,000 coyotes a year out of Alberta. What do we do when that ends? When we quit catching them and shipping them, doing it for free? Well, then the government's going to be paying to do this, and that's never cheap, and it's never a great solution either. We should never give the government the opportunity to step in and do that, because it only becomes harder for us to be back being trappers again afterwards. So You can always hold on to your fur. You can
Yeah.
always hold on to it. And the situation right now, the only coyotes that are worth anything are Western Canadian coyotes. And mine here in Alberta are a little bit far north. So, like the southern Alberta, southern Saskatchewan ones are worth good money. So that would mean, like North Dakota and Montana, those coyotes would still be worth money. They'd still be good Western coyotes. Mm-hmm. The Eastern coyotes, which is literally a different breed of coyote, is bigger, heavier, much coarser fur. And then, of course, when you go further south, well, those coyotes never really get furred. They just don't have...
Not to the same extent that we do up here.
No.
I mean, they do have the hide is different because of the daylight hours, but they never get to be heavy or, well, I guess heavy's the right term, right?
That's right. Yeah, they get prime because of daylight, but they don't ever get heavy. They still stay pretty flat as far as the fur. It's funny. I just seen that Canada Goose, which of course was renowned for their coyote trim on their fancy coats and that, just set record sales in China. You want to bet that every one of those coats has coyote on it? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know for a fact, but I'm guaranteeing the only place that the fur thing is an issue is only here in North America.
Well, and we have to get past the idea that people that don't know anything about hunting, fishing, trapping are the ones that get to make the rules by lobbying government.
Yeah.
They don't know. And we're dangerously close to having, at least in Alberta, a lot of biologists that work for the government who don't know either. They aren't involved in the outdoors. They've got a degree from a university somewhere that says that they're a biologist, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not working at cross purposes to the outdoor community.
What was the last standard? They had 46 biologists that were coming on in for new training.
No, it wasn't biologists. It was conservation officers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And it was like 1 hunted and fished?
Zero.
These are the conservation officers. Like, I think that just as an education as a prerequisite, I think you have to understand the life too.
Yeah.
It's
well,
shocking.
And there's those that have never lived in the life but are eager to learn about it as well. So you can't always just shut it off just because of history. Because we had a young fellow out here that came out during trapping season. It was 4 or 5 years ago. And it really got his eyes opened as to what it meant to be trapping on a line like ours. And we probably trap as hard as the hardest trapper out there, I would think. Like, we're out here all the time doing what we do. And I mean, there's no judgment as far as I'm concerned about how or when or whatever that you do as a trapper. However, that might be changing too.
Oh my goodness, yeah. He was so fresh out of school, you could still see the stick up his rear. Oh. He couldn't bend enough to sit on a snowmobile. You know what I mean? He was
that's unfair. He was very new to his role.
He was very new, and he was wonderful fella, and he's really doing nice very well.
Guy. Yeah. And he still stays in touch. So we don't want to malign him because
no, I'm not maligning. I'm doing what guys do. They poke at one another a little bit.
Well, mamas don't do that.
Yeah, well, guys do.
Anyway, so now we're out here. The weather is remarkably mild. Last weekend when we were out, there was still a lot of running water in the creeks and whatnot. And this weekend, it's stiffened up a little bit, although it's not to the extent that we could cross anything with the UTV that we're using this year.
Yeah.
So we should probably explain that a little bit.
Well, we're no longer with Argo.
Yeah. Argo's no longer with us.
Yeah, put it that way. Yeah. For the third time in my long career with Argo, they've changed marketing people. And of course, the new marketing person has to rebrand everything and leave their thumbprint on everything. And so they've decided, was it the one before or the one before that, where they decided that it was all going to be digital, online, Facebook and all that. That lasted less than a year, and then they were back to us. And I think this one, this guy was, I don't know if you're aware, but Argo bought Sherp and then brought out the Sasquatch model, which is a hydrostatic. Okay, so it weighs a lot more, costs a lot more.
A lot more.
Yeah. The Sherp, there's really nothing remarkable about it. It's all about 100% about the tires. Mm-hmm. And those tires, that was a very carefully protected trade secret, how they were made and everything. And it was always down to the fact that every tire had a serial number that went with the same serial number with the rim, the serial number on the machine, so nobody could ever just get a tire, cut it apart, and figure it out. We have a friend who has been to the Sherp factory in Ukraine, and actually has one or two Sherps, doesn't he?
I'm not sure if he still has them, actually.
Yeah, well, at that time they were a lot less. They were $70,000 or whatever. Now a basic Sherp is $150,000. The Sasquatch is approaching $250,000. So
that kind of takes the trapper out of it.
it takes people out of it. All's left is industry.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But I mean, in fairness to industry, I don't know how many companies can afford to buy something like that. For what purpose?
It ends up being rental. It's always going to be a rental company's going to own it, and they will rent it out or lease it to a company for a particular project or whatever. But even at that, I mean, when you do have things like Argos and you do have things like the various UTVs and that kind of stuff, you can spend a little bit of time stuck in all that to make up the difference for that daily rental on that Sherp or Sasquatch, right? So, long story short, we don't have an Argo this year. We don't have an Argo with tracks this year, so.
Yeah, so it's, and the other part of that story too is that I think, is it still called Ontario Driving Gear?
ODG is Ontario Driving Gear. They're the ones that make Argo. They're bought by, in the end, it's Textron in the U.S. that also owns Polaris and Arctic.
So their marketing is going in a different direction, but just talking to the various Argo dealers that we know, sales are pretty flat. So
very flat.
I think some of it is that our grassroots use of the unit or units is very beneficial to a company, but they don't. They're going after a different market, I guess. So they've
two directions they went. They went with the toys. So, I mean, Argo brought out a line of ATVs, which that's not what the name Argo means. And I don't know whether it's a good ATV or bad ATV. It's just not my
it's
thing.
Not something that we would be able to use up here.
But they have spent a lot of time, promoting that. They went to the Sherp, which is way beyond their price point, or they're no longer with the consumer at that point, right? With just the average everyday person isn't going to walk in and plunk down $150 for a Sherp, which now Sherp is done because of the war in Ukraine. They can't get parts, so they've shut down the Sherp side. So they're still doing the Sasquatch side, which is the $250,000 unit. So they've dumped out a really big chunk of what was their potential market. They've went to try and make up for it. They've tried to promote the six-wheel drive, the little 6x6s. They're cheap or cheaper. Some of them are sub $10,000, and they put bigger motors in them. They go faster, which is just all. You're talking about a chain drive on something with no suspension and that. Those are just problems waiting to happen. Mm-hmm. They were never meant to be a toy. They're meant to be a tool. Yeah. And for somebody who my first Argo was in 1977, and it was a 6x6, and that was the last 6x6 I had because they were useless. Yeah. There was no room to carry anything. They didn't go the places that the 8x8 went, and it was useless. So, I mean, I guess they are a toy. I'm not sure, but
well, anyway, so we have to make changes, and that's just the way that business goes. But
yep.
So anyway, that's a long way around saying that there were lots of places that we couldn't get to because we get to a creek.
Yep.
And it's not frozen, so we can't cross it because the water's deep or the bank is steep, and it's just the machine that we're running now is very comfortable to ride in.
Yes.
It's way easier to get in and out of. It has a box that tips. It's not a covered box, but you can manage weather.
But it has a hard shell top, which is one thing I always hated about the Argo. And it also has hard doors.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I hated about the Argo, that stupid zipper thing. Like Argo needs to do to step into the 21st century, let alone the 22nd. And so this has been great. We travel very comfortably. The only problem we have is that we have a lot of muskeg that is actually just grass with water in it. And it's bad. It's bad stuff. I mean, you can get excited when you're in an 8x8 with tracks on.
Yeah.
And
with an 8-wheel, not an 8x8.
Well, 8x8, an 8-wheel Argo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 4x4, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
You haven't had enough coffee this morning.
No, I have not. Yeah. I have not. Anyway, so you're always, some places you're waiting for frost. Usually with the Argo, it's if we had a real big beaver dam or end of a lake to cross, because we had tracks on, it didn't swim. They never did bother designing swimming tracks. And so we would, you'd have to wait for that stuff to freeze up with enough ice to carry it. But now we have a lot more places that we can't cross right now, because if you fall through with an Argo, you're a cork. Yeah. Not a problem. If you fall through with the machine we've got now, we got problems.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've been doing a lot more back and forth stuff rather than going down and making a big loop. You might go down this way and have to come back, and then go down this way and have to come back, and this way and go down and around and that kind of stuff. But it's working out. We've got what did we get? We did 12 kilometers yesterday. About
12 kilometers, and the only reason we didn't get more done is that the deadfall in there was unbelievable. And you forget when you're in an Argo with tracks. Like some of them were new,
yeah,
but a lot of them weren't. And when you're running just plain tires over that kind of stuff, you want to be careful that you don't get a flat way out there in the bush somewhere, because you don't carry.
We had a really weird thing happen 2 days ago.
Yeah,
got up and headed out trapping, and by the time we'd gone like a few kilometers, I had a flat front tire. Like, oh, great. Well, so then I'm looking for the hole, because I'm going to patch it, and can't find it. Pump it up, and you don't hear no hissing. You don't nothing. Off we
and
go.
not just you didn't hear any hissing.
Yeah,
I didn't hear any hissing.
Be no shock that I couldn't hear any hissing. But I do have very sensitive hands, and I moved my hands around trying to find air moving, and couldn't find any of that. So off we go, and it goes flat twice more. Yeah. We pump it up twice more, and now 3 days later, it's still holding air. I have no idea what was going on with that.
I don't know either.
It's really weird. I'm going to pull it off and have it looked at by the tire shop for sure.
Yeah, I should probably make arrangements to get my car in to have my winter tires put on it, since today is November 11th and I haven't done that yet.
Yeah, it's getting down there, isn't it?
Well, one of these days we're going to get a big snow, and I'm going to be working from home. Which isn't necessarily a big problem either.
No. But we yesterday I probably ran a chainsaw for 7 hours.
Oh, it was a long day.
Yeah.
Yep, got our gym in for sure.
Oh yeah. For me, that kind of stuff, like I've got torn rotator cuffs, and so that aches, and I needed some medication last night to sleep. But we did a pretty good job.
We did.
We did a pretty good job, and we got turned around by a creek again too.
Yeah.
Didn't matter.
Well,
we were done for the day anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, but we got turned around by a creek, but the water is really high, so we would have had to cross an area that wasn't creek last year.
Yeah.
But is full of water this year before we got to the creek.
Yeah.
So,
beavers are
yeah. Well, the beavers are doing well.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that we're going to have some good winter beaver trapping. My mom sent me an article a couple weeks ago just about people putting in beaver traps and whatnot. Of course, the season opened on October 1st up here for beaver and muskrat. And we typically don't trap them until January, where we end up cutting a hole or holes through the ice and trapping close to beaver houses. because of that dense fur that they have at that time of year, and they just make the best pelts.
Here's the cool thing. A fall beaver does not have the underfur for felting. Does not have as good an underfur for felting.
Right.
About January, they're hitting full prime. But that full prime carries, and full heavy, and that carries right through into spring. You can actually, they haven't shed out, when by the time open water hits here. So those spring beaver are far more valuable than the fall beaver.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
It is cool.
Yeah, when it comes to felting.
But yeah, and I mean, that's, for those of you who have followed the show for a while, so it was 5 years ago that we got our beaver blanket back, after it was crafted for us. But we took 22 beavers, and they were the heavy beavers that we'd caught over a couple of years. We sent them for tanning, plucking, and shearing, and then that beaver blanket was made out of it, and it's just the most, I don't know, what a quality piece of
people that look at it
art.
Refer to it as like a weighted blanket.
Yeah.
Because it is heavy.
It is heavy.
Yeah.
And we actually refer to it as a weighted blanket because it's really nice to sleep under in the wintertime.
Yeah. So with the 15 traps we got set yesterday, we had 34 before.
So 49 traps are out.
49, yeah.
And yesterday on Saturday we checked all of the first 34.
Yep.
And we ended up, because I think I win. We had a little wager at the beginning.
Oh,
Richard
usually
said,
that first check is like...
I know, but the weather.
It must be. It must be that they don't need us.
They don't need the bait because there's no snow on the ground. So it's easy enough, I think, for them to carry on catching the voles and mice and other little critters that they need to eat. But I think you estimated we were going to get 4 fisher and 3 marten.
Yeah.
And I said 2 fisher, 4 marten, and a weasel. And so we're playing by Price is Right rules. And so we got 1 fisher, so I was closer. We got 1 marten.
So I was closer.
He was closer, but we got a weasel. I win.
And we got a weasel in a mink trap. And of course the mink came around after the weasel and ate it.
Yeah, so we didn't bring a weasel home, but we still caught a weasel, and that wasn't, the rules didn't state.
Oh, come on now.
We might refine the rules later, but whatever.
Yeah.
So we checked those 34 on Saturday. Yesterday, we set an additional 15, so we're maybe halfway there as far as traps go.
Yeah, usually about where I'm at. I mean, like last winter, I think we had 80 last year, but that was just because we couldn't get into any of the burns where we usually have, especially down in the southwest. I don't know what's down there yet. We still haven't got down there.
Well, it's an impossible place to travel.
Right now, I don't.
Yeah, and I don't know. There was supposed to be a forestry company that was coming in to do some salvage work or to salvage some of that burned wood.
God, it looks so good right now, doesn't it? It's really funny the way it burnt. I don't know. I haven't got a lot of experience with this, but all this pine and spruce that burnt, and now all the bark has fell off of it, and so there's these white trees that are mostly white just sticking up there, or pale yellow, or
stark contrast to the blackened bark that remains on a lot of the trees. But it's really interesting I'm hoping that will be salvageable wood. But I mean, I know I'd sure like to have it to burn.
Yeah, I know you were looking.
It's a little far away from the cabin, so you can't really get.
Yeah, it's still on our trap line, but it's 20-some kilometers by road.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know that you have your eyeballs on it. You're always looking at dead things like, ooh, we should take that for.
Or sick things like, ooh, that tree doesn't look like it's going to last much longer. We should take that one. What else were we going to talk about today?
Well, I think that other than yesterday, it's been kind of nice. We didn't have a lot of deadfall on the rest of the line so far.
No.
Which is unusual.
It is.
you always remember what last year was like and the year before, and the last 3 years have been bad for deadfall and stuff falling. And this year, other than where we were down there, but mind you, I knew that was going to be bad down there because by the time we got there last year, there was snow, and running an Argo with tracks, well, you drove over a lot of stuff because, your snow's already got you up and over a log, right? And now when you go there, something with wheels, well, it can't go bumping over all those logs. I suppose it could, but I'm just not hard on equipment that way. It's a bad deal. Although I did manage, what did I break yesterday? Oh, knocked the windshield wiper off of it.
That was on our way back, so I don't know how that worked exactly because we'd already been through the area once. But anyway, I mean, it's we are back to normal at the cabin. We've got a full wood box because we overstuffed it last year, so that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been really good that way.
And mild, so that we're not burning as much.
No.
During the day or at night, just to keep things up to a reasonable temperature.
We've enjoyed a few lunches out on the trail.
Oh yes.
Except for yesterday.
When we enjoyed snacks because someone forgot the bread to toast to make the sandwiches out on the trap line. And that is one of the great things about this time of year is that we stop and build a little fire, and then Richard cooks a sandwich or cooks the bread. And this time out, I brought some home canned elk meat. So that's a treat that we saved for being out in the bush. Because when we first got married, it was homegrown onions, home canned dill pickles, homemade bread, and home canned moose meat or elk meat.
Yep.
And that's what we took with us everywhere because there was just no going to the store and buying lunch meat.
And if you don't think that sounds good, just make a sandwich with that.
Oh, especially if you can get green onions.
Yeah.
There's something about that's great. But we grew some red onions from seed this year, and they got some punch, let me tell you. Make your eyes water and your nose run.
And you can't quit eating them.
And you can't quit eating them. And then you can't breathe on your partner for a while because... Yeah. But anyway, I forgot the bread to make the sandwiches, and we probably could have dug the moose meat out of the jar and just eaten it like that, but we had snacks instead.
Yeah, well, and it's really funny because you now have this app on your phone, and you can scan the barcode on any food, and it tells you what value it has based on a scale out of 100. Well, a lot of her favorite stuff, like cheesies, is a 0 out of 100. And so that's what we're running on yesterday.
That's what we ate yesterday, because all we had was snacks.
And I'm running on 0 out of 100. Well, why did I just eat that?
Well, I guess the thing is that as healthy as we do eat, every now and then we have snacks. And I think if you eat well 80% of the time, the odd snack isn't bad for you. But our aim is to eat clean all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess that means that I'm just going to have to be making more.
Well, that was what was really cool. You had a tear in your hip.
Yeah. It's a labral tear.
Labral tear, yeah.
So it's the lining. Oh, somebody's calling you.
Yeah, I see that.
In any event, I had it confirmed with an MRI. I'd been suffering from this since we went to Africa the last time, which was in 2019, and I kept thinking that I'd pulled something or something was out of alignment or whatever. But in Alberta, it's very difficult to get a family doctor. And so we were without a family doctor. Well, it's been probably 6 or 7 years now, but did get a referral to a local doctor who was willing to take us on as a patient, but we can't call him our family doctor. I'm not sure why that is, but anyway, that's Alberta healthcare, folks. So, and to all of our American friends, public healthcare is not where it's at either.
Socialized medicine.
Socialized medicine. In any event, I had an x-ray and an ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech told me that he thought I had a labral tear, but only an MRI would confirm that. And I thought, oh my, I'm going to have to pay $1,000 to go somewhere to get an MRI. But I got in 3 months, which was almost record time.
Oh, it is. Land speed.
Yeah. And otherwise, the wait was probably 6 to 9 months, and I think now it's over a year again. In any event, it did confirm I had this labral tear, but it wasn't significant enough that it warranted surgery. And that's, again, another term that is bandied about a lot in socialized medicine. Is it's not bad enough to worry about it, so here you go. So over the years, it has progressed, and then we were out doing our sporting clay league this year, and one of the folks that was with us, we started talking about this kind of stuff because he had bad knees and this and that, whatever. So that there's such a thing called a protein-rich plasma injection that can be done, that it uses your own blood, centrifuge, spins out the plasma, and then it's re-injected into your body, into whichever joint you're having difficulty with. So he had it done in Grand Prairie. There was a clinic in Grand Prairie that would do knees, because knees aren't as difficult a spot to hit as a hip is. And he said he's 100% from this. It's, of course, it's new, and it's not as effective for everyone as it is for some. So Alberta Health Services doesn't cover it, and neither does any other kind of benefits package, right, because it's deemed experimental. So I found a doctor in the small town of Beaver Lodge. Her name is Dr. Erin Clow, C-L-O-W, in case anyone in the Grand Prairie region or Peace region is interested. She does this, and for the hip, she uses an ultrasound machine to guide the needle to make sure that she gets the placement just right. And so I've had 3 injections, and that has been going really well. So that when we're out on the trap line and we're heaving and lifting logs and other things to get out of the way, or we're bouncing around, I am not in agony with any of that. So that's just a little tip for...
No, but what was cool about that, where I was going, was...
Before I hijacked it?
Where I was going with it was we were talking about the food and how we try to eat clean so much.
Oh, yes.
When they spin your blood out and that plasma comes out, they can tell whether you smoke or drink or what kind of diet you have, because yours was like little poly purebred. They said it was clear as spring water, and they asked you about, they knew you didn't smoke or drink from looking at it, but they asked you about your diet and everything, and you told them that, we lived out of our backyard, out of our garden, our chickens, our pigs, our moose and elk, that and they said, well, it really shows that they had never seen plasma as pure as yours.
Yep. Poly pure blood.
Yeah. Literally. So, we wrap this up. Let's give them a fur count. We are sitting now at 2 Fisher, 2 Martin, 2 Weasel, and 2 Squirrels.
Yeah. Deuces all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind you, we've only been able to check 34 traps once.
Yeah.
And we managed to pick up Martin and Fisher when we were setting. They happened right away. Yeah. We'll see what happens. It's supposed to be a little bit cooler this week. I hope so. I need some frost. I need to be able to drive across some stuff, but it's a whole different pucker factor driving something with wheels. You still gather up a lot of the seat in the crack of your butt in an Argo when you fall through, but this would be a whole different story, so I don't want to do it.
No, we're very, very cautious, and we're near the middle of November already, which is just shocking to all of us, I think.
Yeah, well, any day now, though, we could be going with a snowmobile.
Yeah.
There's lots of times I've been running a snowmobile by the middle of November.
Yeah.
And, the snowmobile is better. It's still not good if it falls through, but you're going faster. Yeah. You're going faster, so the devil's got to work harder to catch you.
Never thought of it that
way. Anyway, let's get cleaned up and get out of here. We're back here just in a few days.
Well, I have to get home because... that's one other thing we should say before we go away.
Okay.
Is that we killed 3 turkey hens that were
Year and a half old. Though.
Yeah, a year and a half old. And so I'm going to roast them. I'm going to debone them. I'm going to use the bones to do some stock. And then, so that I have to do when we get home. And also we killed 10 surplus roosters. That was last Thursday. So
they've been sitting in a fridge waiting for you. So
they're in a fridge waiting for me, and I'm going to can the roosters because we love canned chicken.
Oh yeah.
And then I'll use the wings and the backs and roast them, and also make stock out of them. So we got to get rolling because I've got like a whole 24 hours ahead of me to do all this stuff. Sorry, buddy.
I got fur to do, so
yeah.
I'll be out in the shop. I'd help you, but
but you're going to be busy.
I'm going to be busy.
Seems like a good idea.
Well, thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll see you down the line.